Bears, blog, boys, you know it all, computer, analytic, geeky nerds. Michael Schneider, Tom Cavanaugh, the Bear, blog, boys, know-it-alls. Doing some podcast somewhere. Nobody wants to hear you. Geeks, you pencil-pushing, skinny jean-wearing geeks, you.
Coming to you live from my mama's basement, this is the Bears Blog Boys podcast. I'm your co-host, Tom Cavanaugh, here with my good buddy and other co-host, Michael Schneider. Schneider, I got the Caleb jersey on. I'm feeling amped up after that preseason game. I mean, this is as excited as I've ever been after a preseason game. But, buddy, how are you doing? How are you feeling? I'm excited to do this episode with you today.
I'm right there with you, Tom. I might go downstairs and grab the Caleb Williams jersey. Again, I am amped up as well. You said it best, right? I haven't had this feeling after a preseason game in a long time, right? We've all been so excited about Ben Johnson. This is the guy. This is the guy. I mean, you've seen it on full display, right? Like, you got that feeling, like you got the confirmation on that. I know it's just preseason, but that's what we've been expecting with him. That's what we've been buying into. And it was so exciting to see, Tom.
It was really exciting to see. I mean, there was a lot to take away from. I think, Snyder, before we actually get into like the details of the game, I think just like the overall vibe and standard of this team is just so visibly different, right? The Bears are up like 21-0, or I forgot the score. They were like in the 20s at some point. And Ben Johnson doesn't have a smile on his face. He's still like getting mad about mistakes that are being made on the field in a preseason game where the starters aren't even playing.
Yeah.
And that just goes to show you like the kind of person he is. Like, people can act like that and be like, act like perfectionists, but like if it's not, doesn't come off as authentic, the team won't buy into it. This is authentic perfectionist. He's going to get the details right to every single last one. And you see it. Doesn't matter what time of the game it is. You better be on your stuff or you're not going to play. And I think everyone has taken on to that very, very well in a very brief sample, right? It is just the preseason. You always have to open up these episodes whenever we talk about it with that disclaimer. It is the preseason. We should have a little bit tempered expectations and like takeaways, what we can project forward. But like, it's hard not to be excited. This is a good sign, I would say, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Johnson, dude, he just looks like a nutcase, right? He lives, breathes, and sleeps this job. And, you know, it really sets the standard, right? When you see your coach like that, like just nonstop, it's going to trickle down below to everything, right? The other coaches, the players, and everyone's going to buy in, Tom. You know, football, again, I'm not going to rant on this thing. NFL football is like the thing that could be a great talent, whatever. But what separates, you know, being that talent and being great is you really have to be a nutcase, right? Like, you have to put your family aside. And it's crazy to talk about that, right? Not being a football player. But the great ones, like, they are all football outside of football, right? When it comes to the playbook, you know, learning everything, taking care of their body, everything, right? You have to live, breathe, sleep, dream about, you know, everything NFL football. And you literally have to be a nutcase, right? It's unlike, I think, any other profession. I think you can say the same about all professional sports. You know, if you have high expectations or, you know, want to achieve greatness like that, you have to be a nutcase. And I am totally convinced Ben Johnson is an absolute nutcase when it comes to ball.
He is. I mean, it's hard not to see his reactions on the sideline, just like the way he's locked in and scouring every single element of the game. I mean, it's something I'm not familiar with seeing from a Bears coach. Last year with Eberflus and Nagy, honestly, it was, we went through adversity, we handled it well. It's like, no, there's no room. Obviously, there's room for adversity, but we're not going to put ourselves in positions to where we're keep handling adversity. No, we're going to be the ones to cause teams adversity. And that's why I'm just really excited with that takeaway. I mean, we saw that kind of last week, but on this week, I think we really saw it on full display. I mean, every single wave of the Bears team was on their P's and Q's. That is, again, a sight we're not familiar with. I know the preseason was really strong last year, but I mean, I think just the details and execution is something I was really, really impressed with just throughout this game. Something, again, that is very new to the Bears. In terms of the details, Snyder, about how the starters played, which is what we kind of want to know. The defense, there wasn't a whole lot to take away from. They only play a drive against the Bills' backup, and the Bills were just terribly, that their backup unit was just like terribly executed. They had 2 penalties, so there really wasn't a whole lot to take away from that standpoint. But the offense, I mean, you have to start the conversation with Caleb Williams and just how much of a far cry he looked from last year, even in the preseason from last year to this year. I mean, just was looking like so much more confident within the offense, knowing exactly where to go with the ball. He had a time to throw of 2.6 seconds, and I think they only called 1 screen. So this was not like a gimmicky way of lessening that time to throw. No, this was a confident Caleb Williams who wanted to play within structure, who wanted to read progressions and find the right guy to get open within the timing of the offense. Again, I know it was preseason. I know it was against the Bills backups, but I think just stylistically how he was trying to play was the most exciting thing of the night for me, Snyder.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like he's just buying into the system, right? He's getting more comfortable, right? He's staying within the pocket, and that's what Ben Johnson wants, right? You've seen it with Jared Goff. You've seen him, elevate his game there, Tom. The thing is, what's crazy to say is Caleb Williams doesn't need to be a superhero for this thing to function, right? You have a lot of easy buttons. You have a lot of stuff, that will be schemed open across the middle of the field, and let guys have that yak opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it on full display. I think on the 3 of the big complete, I mean, I know the big completion to Cole Kmet wasn't really a run after catch opportunity, but the first play to Loveland, easy, schemed up, short throw, very easy to complete it. Like just doing what you're supposed to, not making a wild throw, but making a positive play. And then the next 2 plays after that big completion, it was the big over the middle of the field to Loveland again. And then the scoring the touchdown, it was just a little choice route. That was a great play call against man coverage to Zacchaeus. I mean, again, those weren't in a vacuum. Those physically weren't insane throws, but they were the right ones to make. And it just goes to show you, if you make those right decisions over and over and over again, your offense is going to be really efficient and really hard to stop. If you can work that intermediate part of the field, every other part of the field starts to open up for you. And I think we'll see that. And that's kind of the root of what Ben Johnson's offense is trying to do. Because if you threaten that field, then the defense has to worry about everything. A lot of quarterbacks, I guess the ones that don't really make it in the NFL, can't throw over those parts of the field. And that's why it's really important that Caleb gets that down now. And he literally spammed it. It was awesome. It was a great thing to see that he's taking to this offense very, very well.
And that's the thing, Tom. We're always going to compare it to like the Lions and Jared Goff. I thought, again, obviously the Lions were as successful as they've been, productive as they've been. I'm not saying Caleb is better at this point in his career than Goff, but where I see Jared Goff kind of get into some trouble is I think he believes in his arm a little bit too much, right? Now, you see Caleb, right? I know he still has to grow in like the IQ, instincts, and comfortability in the offense, but why I get excited and look maybe how this offense can reach higher heights than the Lions did is because I don't want to forget that Caleb still has this generational arm, how he just dip it into these coverages, zip it towards the middle of the field, way more talent than Goff did. So, I mean, that just unlocks something totally different. I know he's got a ways to go to get comfortable in the system, but that's the upside with it.
Absolutely, Snyder. And I'll also say, too, the upside with Caleb versus a Goff on that one. It was a play that really went unnoticed, and it kind of looked like Caleb of last year. But it was that play action play that Rome was open on, but they blitzed, right? And Caleb had his back turned to the defense, and he was literally pressured immediately. And Caleb scrambles out of it and throws it at Olamide Zacchaeus' feet. But again, that's a better play than taking a sack, which Jared Goff probably would have done in that situation, because Jared Goff is just not that physically talented to scramble around. If Caleb can marry all the things that make him special, we know he has one of the best arms in the league. I would say a top 10 arm in the league. And then that scrambling ability, that creative ability as a thrower to playing within the structure of Ben Johnson's offense, if he can kind of balance the two, I mean, that's exactly what you want from a franchise quarterback. That's what the best do. That's what Mahomes has done. That's what Josh Allen has done. They don't get enough credit for how well they play within the system because of all the special wow plays they can make. But it's really a balancing act, and that's what Caleb needs to learn, and that's what I'm hoping Ben Johnson can kind of guide him through this. But I think that play was a good play of just living to see another down and not taking a negative play, something that he was not doing last year. Another play, Snyder, I'll bring up, the dirting of the screen. How many plays last year were Shane Waldron's terrible screenplays read out by the defense immediately, and Caleb tries to scramble around and takes a huge loss, right? This year, it looked different, right? The moment he knew it wasn't going to work, he threw it into the ground. Again, I'm not trying to hype and overly glaze these plays, but again, these are steps in the right direction from where Caleb was last year.
No, yeah, that's growth, Tom, right? You just live to fight another down. That was one frustrating thing. And I bet it's so hard for a talent like Caleb, who's used to being, the most athletic player on the field. In college, you can't have that time to kind of run around and, your arm talent maybe gets you out of it. Your athletic ability gets you out of it. That's not really in the case in the NFL, right? You have to play in structure. You have to just, throw it away, ground it, and then live to fight another down. So, again, that's growth, Tom. Those are the small, intricate things that, again, not everyone's going to talk about, but it is, equally as important as anything.
For sure. I think it's honestly in terms of just his personal evaluation, it's one of the most important parts because so much of his issues, I don't even think were necessarily the root of the issues weren't necessarily on him. When plays wouldn't work and stuff like that. I think he would just make bad plays worse. And that's a skill that I think it might sound easy to unlearn, but it's really not. And I think it's for the exact same reasons you just said, Snyder. Justin Fields, how often were we saying the same things about him? He just trying to do too much and it hurting his team ultimately, not being able to take the easy answer over and over and over again. And I think that's going to be a big progression point for Caleb. I'm sure that's a huge coaching point from Ben Johnson. And that was an example of him doing the right thing and just, vetoing the play right there. So, I mean, a lot of encouraging things that anticipation throw to DJ Moore. That was probably the best anticipation throw I've seen Caleb make in his NFL career. I mean, he was throwing that thing way early than DJ Moore was into his break. And that's always a good thing you want to see because that just shows that he has an understanding that this route is going to work against this coverage. And again, that's exactly what you want to see when we're having these questions about a young quarterback developing.
Yeah, right. That's the thing. I'm not going to keep bringing up Fields. I know we're not going to do that. We're a lot past that. But that was the thing, right? You didn't see Fields grow. It's grounding the ball, throwing with anticipation. He always kind of locked into one guy and threw it late. That's the upside with Caleb, right? Even in comparison to Goff, right? That if you could throw with anticipation like that, understand and be on time with your receiver and just fire it in the way Caleb can with his arm talent, that just unlocks a different dimension from the QB to wide receiver. That we have never seen, and why the upside is through the roof with Caleb, Ben Johnson, and these wide receivers.
Yeah, we can talk about some of the wide receivers and pass catchers. So, Sandra, why don't we start with the tight ends first? Because I think we kind of knew that DJ Moore and we knew the starting three receivers, honestly, that those were the guys that are going to be playing a lot. Those were going to be the primary targets in terms of a receiver. But the tight end position was a bit different. We knew Loveland was in line to be the guy or will be eventually to be the number one guy. But throughout this game with the starters, Cole Kmet and Loveland basically split snaps as the team's tight end one. I think Cole Kmet got 5 to Loveland's 4 whenever they were in 3 wide receiver sets. And then they were also in a bunch of 12 personnel sets where both guys were on the field. So do you think this shed any light on a rotation we can expect early on into the season or maybe throughout the season? Do you think that this is going to be a pretty heavily rotated position whenever the Bears do have 3 wide receivers on the field?
I do, Tom. More than I think I won't say maybe more than we'd like, but maybe more than we expected, right? You drafted tight end 10 overall. You hear from the fan base, oh, Cole Kmet's going to get traded. If not this season, next. It's just a matter of time. And I understand that, right? Like you look at your backup tight end who's making, what is it, $10 million time, right around there. A lot of fans will say like that's a luxury. So I guess we're expecting to maybe Kmet be phased out. But at the end of the day, like again, I don't think Cole Kmet is a top 5 tight end like some say, but I think he's a good football player, right? I think he is a good contributor. I think he's a really good depth piece to have, and he's capable, right? In the run game, I think his catch radius and how he can come down with footballs has grown. I think he's gotten quicker, like in a straight line, as the time has gone. So I like Cole Kmet. I think he is a contributor, and I think it's just a good situation, right? I think you have endless possibilities where you're in 12 personnel, but maybe Loveland's lined up out wide, right? And you have Kmet in line. Or I just think you could be so creative with it and create these mismatches to where you'll see Kmet maybe is that forgotten guy, but like you see it in the preseason game, you just had an easy completion for him right down the field. Like I think he has more upside there than was it Brock Wright with the Lions, right? I think he provides more there as the tight end too. Like, hey, yes, he's the forgotten man, but like that's going to be better for him, right? Maybe he's on that second linebacker or the weaker safety or whatever mismatch you could do. He might get more favorable options. And if he could do like what he did, like once or twice a game, I think that's a really big impact, or just be that kind of forgotten guy. So yeah, I like it, Tom. I like the rotation. I like the endless possibilities, how you can line these guys up. And I think both of them are going to contribute. I would like for Cole Kmet to be around for this year and next year as Loveland is still growing, developing to his body. And I think, I think the Bears can afford it. And I'm not mad at it about it, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kmet is a perfect fit for this offense. Like Kmet's always, as a receiver, he's always been at his best when you can kind of get him running with the full head of steam, and we saw that right this past game when he's able to just run up the seam untouched and really like knife the defense that way. He's very, very effective, and this is an offense that's going to allow him to do that. Like all those play action shot plays that kind of just like has the defense hesitate for a second, thinking it's going to be a run. And then the tight ends and slot receivers can kind of get behind them. That's where Cole Kmet's going to thrive. So I absolutely agree. I think that he will be a contributor. He will rotate in with Loveland quite a bit. And I'll also say, Snyder, I don't know this for a fact, but on that one, I think on the worst pass from Caleb Williams of the night, where he threw kind of the ball late into the flat to the running back when that rolled up Buzz defender was right there. It looked like he's going to throw him a hospital ball. On that play, it looked like Loveland was late to settle down in the zone. Like you just like kind of saw a rookie moment where he was taking too long to stop. So Caleb felt the need to get off it, because if they keep running in that zone, you could throw into a defender and it could be a problem, right? So I think you're going to see those moments for Loveland. And, like we have very high expectations for Loveland. I thought he was going to hit the ground running, and it looked like he already is. But there's going to be moments where I think that Ben Johnson and his staff might think Cole Kmet's a little bit more reliable right now, given the experience and the veteran leadership.
Yeah, I like that point, Tom. And that's the case, right? You're a rookie tight end. Again, coming off an injury, but still, tight end is a lot to take in at the NFL level. I know he came in from a pro style offense with Jim Harbaugh. I get that, right? But it's still right. You still are develop. He's super young, right? He only 21, Tom. He still got to develop into his body. So you have that going at up against him. But then you also have, again, the IQ, the instincts, right? That's going to grow over time. I like that he's not just being forced in like, hey, we need you to block, we need you to do all this, and there's no one there to maybe guide him, right? And I think Cole Kmet, I know I've always been critical of him and what he is. And again, right now, I like him for what he is in this offense. I think he is an asset. But what I've always appreciated about Cole Kmet, and I think Ryan Poles said this early in his first year, like he is a professional, right? He is super strong work ethic, amazing teammate, put his body on the line. And I think he just all everything Chicago Bears, right? He's not a me guy. And I just think the situation for Loveland to grow and Kmet to be a contributor and asset, I think it's a perfect combination for both of them.
Yeah, I think they complement each other perfectly. I think Kmet's great to have around for Loveland. And like while Loveland is still learning the position, I mean, the talent is so evident. Like you just see the way he moves. He moves on a different level than your average tight end. And that's what makes him special. Just the way he's able to get in and out of his breaks. I mean, even in this game center, you brought up Loveland's alignment versatility. They were already kind of showing that. I think he had 2 snaps where he's lining up on the outside as an X receiver. So, like, again, these are things that normal tight ends don't do. And that's why it's really cool to see you have Cole Kmet, who is your typical Y tight end that you're playing in line and in the slot primarily. And then you have Loveland, who can – it's like the true examples of an F tight end and a Y tight end. The Bears have that in their disposal. And it's also cool, Snyder, when you see a guy like Olamide Zaccheaus, who again, I wouldn't even say you've been talking up a lot. Shows he's also very talented. If you get him the ball, he can also make things happen with it. And he kind of looks like the slot receiver of this team. So like, I think just from this preseason too, in general, like the Bears have so many different weapons they can use and exploit defenses with. And I think the 2 tight ends is just another example of that.
Yeah, all of my kids, you kind of shed light on him. I didn't even know he was undrafted, but he's just like one of those like grinders, right? That just undrafted, plays with a full motor, gives it his all blocking and everything, and I'm sure it's just all ball day and night. Works his ass off, is a nutcase with it. So again, I think that experience with Zaccheaus, I think we're going to see a lot of him this year, right? Mm-hmm. I think he is going to be that clear wide receiver 3. And I know we talked about it being Burden. However, I think Burden's going to have a role, but I think right now, and maybe the first half of the season, it is going to be primarily Zaccheaus. I think he's just going to be more reliable, more instinctive. He's going to be a willing blocker. But, to Burden's credit, everything I've seen from him, Tom, when it comes to like effort from his routes, effort in blocking, you see the effort compared from college to now there, right? And I think it's because you have a nutcase coach like Ben Johnson.
Yes.
Right? You have Antoine Randall L. But then Burden right now is probably your wide receiver 4, but he's seeing like a guy like Zaccheaus, just a grinder, right? In front of him, maybe kind of like showing him the ropes. Like you see Rome and DJ buying in. And Burden's like, okay, shit, I was drafted 2nd round. I'm probably 4th on the depth chart. And I'm also behind Loveland and Kmet. Like, I got to grind my ass off. And I got to have maximum effort on every single play. And you're seeing that from him, right? And to his credit, he's making the most of his opportunities. Again, it's going to be an uphill battle for him to see the field. And it's not because of talent. It's not because of effort. It's just because of the situation. But I really think that was the best thing for Luther Burden. And I think he is going to be a contributor, maybe not as much as we thought initially, but I think he's going to get his, right? Not going to be a lot, but I think he is going to make an impact. You see what he could do with the ball in his hands. His stop and go ability could be special. But I just think that's another just great situation for Burden. And again, just an amazing situation, Tom, for every pass catcher, right? The wide receiver room and the tight end room. I think it's a pretty ideal situation for the Bears.
Most definitely. I want to talk about Burden. I think he looked a world's better this past week. I think this was easily like night and day. He was way better at basically every aspect. I think he just looked more comfortable with his assignments and what he was supposed to do. That option route he had, I think it was his 2nd catch where he read the leverage correctly. And again, like that's, if he can be that player, he's going to be a nightmare. He's going to be a nightmare for defenses to defend because you could always make defenses wrong. And then pair that with that special yards after the catch ability. Instead of that last catch he had where he just totally like deked someone out of their cleats. He made someone fall. Like he can be the most special player after the catch in the NFL. Like I truly believe that. Or maybe wide receiver. I don't know. Jahmyr Gibbs is pretty good after the catch, but he can be that special. And they're really trying to, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far and really like diving into the Lions offense last year, they're really trying to groom him for the eventual Amon-Ra St. Brown role. the way that they're having him block, that's like exactly what Amon-Ra St. Brown did for the Lions offense. I think that's what they envision him being eventually. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. I think it's going to take time because there's a lot of mental task with that role that Luther Burden is still learning. But I just think that he's in such a great spot for all the reasons you just said, with Antoine Randall out playing behind Zacchaeus. And the potential is just limitless, really. And I'm really excited to see how his development happens through the next couple of years.
Yeah, he has all the ability in the world, Tom, to be a jack of all trade special wide receiver. It's gonna take a little bit of time, right?
Yep.
Like there's things he needs to gonna have to learn, like with the instincts, with the IQ,
Yep.
with the ask and everything, right? But yeah, I hope we do see Luther Burden, right? I hope he gets some schemed open touches and getting some snaps, because this guy, I haven't seen it, Tom. The way he could just stop and just turn it up is pretty special, right? So again, I think there's just a lot of impact that could be had there this season. I think it'll be coming in very small bunches, but again, I think he's going to be ready to take advantage of those, and we're going to see some of that electric.
Most definitely, yeah. I'm curious to see kind of what his role will be within the regular season, because I don't think it's going to be like in a starting capacity, but I do think he'll get a handful of touches a game. All right, why don't we keep rolling through? There's a little bit more I want to talk about with the receiver, Snyder, because you brought it up when we were watching it in our group chat that like guys are lining up all over the place. Like this is not like a consistent kind of like last year with Shane Waldron. Like it made you want to tear your hair out. Like Keenan Allen was getting all the favorable looks, and DJ Moore was just like he's stuck on the outside. That was not the case with Ben Johnson's offense. It's funny, among the starters, Olamide Zacchaeus did lead the starters in slot snaps, but Rome Odunze actually saw more slot snaps than DJ Moore. And Colston Loveland played out wide, again, a decent amount as well. More than he played in the slot. 33% of his snaps were out wide to only 16.7% of his snaps were in the slot. He played obviously a lot of end line because he's a tight end. But I thought that was really, really interesting. And I thought that was honestly probably the right way to approach it. I don't think the Bears had this like copy and pasting over from the Lions, the receiving room. I think the best way is just to kind of always mislead defenses and have these guys line up all over the place.
I couldn't agree more with that, because listen, and I hate when I say this, Tom, because when we did our rankings, like we had the Lions as the best receiving core in the division. And maybe we had or maybe it was the Vikings, right? So, but the biggest difference is when you compare the Lions to the Bears is, okay, you have St. Brown, who has always been a slot guy, right? But you didn't really have anyone else on the roster with a similar skill set, right? You had Jameson Williams, a burner, a guy who, again, Ben Johnson really elevated his yards after the catch, just making it easy for him. I've said it a lot on the pod where Jameson Williams, I think, had like 5 missed tackles forced across all our receivers in the league, which is ranks very at the bottom. But he was like top 10-ish, 15 in yards after the catch. That's coaching, right? That's making it where you're getting the ball and you have an easy running lane, right? I always go back to like Sean Payton, the way he did that with Michael Thomas, the way he used to do that with like Reggie Bush. He was just great at putting his guys in positions to succeed. And you see Ben Johnson do that. Why I am more excited for the Bears wide receiver group, and I know it's on paper, right? They still have to produce. I look at DJ Moore, like he's a jack of all trades wide receiver, right? He is nasty on his own after the catch. And I actually think the same of Odunze, right? Like people will look at him as more of an X outside 50-50 ball winner, route guy. But I think, Odunze in college, he played in the snap. When I see him get the ball in his hands, he makes some guys miss, right? Like he's not bad at I think there's more there with him after the catch than I think maybe anyone kind of gives him credit for. So I think there's upside with him there, right? Then you have Burden in the mix, and you have Zacchaeus in the mix as well. So like when I look at the top 3 guys, and I'm putting Burden as the top 3 just off of his ability and what he could do, I see more upside, right? Because you combine Ben Johnson's ability to, put guys in winning situations 4 easy yak situations, but then you combine that with guys that are a lot better after the catch, making guys miss, playing through contact. I think Ben with the Lions never seen a group as electric as the Bears in that aspect, right? Again, I'm not saying they're better, but I'm just saying what they could do with the ball in their hands. And I just think there's more upside there with that. So when I always looked at it that way, I didn't want one guy to predominantly be in the slot, right? I wanted to see a combination of that. I wanted to see maybe the 12 personnel in that as well, to where, you know, you could kind of get a taste of every wide receiver and you could have these mismatches everywhere. And you could, like, the defense might not know what to expect, but you're not really sacrificing anything by, you know, taking one guy out of the slot and putting them out wide, because DJ and Rome, they could both win outside. They could both win and press. Yeah, Donte's better in that area, but that doesn't mean that DJ Moore can't do it, right? I think it's going to keep both guys fresh, give them more opportunities. So I was always on board, Tom, for it just being a constant rotation.
Yeah, I think it's the best way to deploy these guys because, again, Snyder, we don't want to be misconstrued here in saying that we think the Bears have a better wide receiver room, even though I think it's closer than some NFC North fans would lead you to believe. But I do think that it's a different receiving room than the Lions. And again, it opens you for more versatility to align these guys up in different spots. I think the Rome Odunze point is a great point because he has the route running chops, obviously, to win as an isolation receiver on the outside, but he also is a good blocker. And he also, I think, has the change of direction and, like you said, yak ability to make the most of his inside snaps as well. I think even on the play that I think his best route was on that play action play that Caleb was pressured on. It was from a condensed, like he was on the outside, but he was in tight, right? And that's kind of, again, more similar to what you're doing in the slot. He totally made someone, routed someone up in the middle of the field. So again, like he has that versatility. I don't think anyone on the Lions had that versatility to where like they're truly excel outside and can play some in the inside. And then DJ Moore, I think some of the same things that we with Rome, you can say the same things for DJ Moore. So I totally agree with you there. And I think that's going to be kind of what we see in the regular season. I think it's going to be more matchup based. Like who do they like to exploit? Like which defender do they like to exploit with which player? I think that's how we're going to kind of see it break down in the regular season because Ben Johnson has all these toys to play with. So that was really encouraging. I don't know, Senator, there was really nothing else huge to take away from the receivers. I thought the offensive line was kind of where my observation, and the running backs we'll talk about too. The offensive line was interesting. So Braxton Jones starts the game. Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright start the game. Joe Thuney's out, obviously. Drew Dahlman, and I think Drew Dahlman played. I'm pretty sure he played, or maybe he didn't. Okay, yeah, he did.
No, he did. He did because I was watching the game with my buddy, and he said Drew Dahlman has zero aura because he's wearing a loose gray undershirt under his uniform. He's like, dude, we just signed a center who has absolutely zero aura. I'm out. But he was obviously joking, but I just thought that was funny. But yeah, Drew Dahlman definitely played. I just remember it because of that comment my buddy made.
Yeah, that's funny stuff. So yeah, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson did play. I think the rookie got to start. I forgot the rookie from Michigan State ended up starting for this team. But Steiner, so I think what's interesting is the left tackle competition. So Braxton Jones, all the reporting this week is Theo Benedict is getting the first team reps. Braxton Jones is kind of getting subbed in and out. He ends up getting the nod. He was better this week. I still think really, Steiner, when I watch him, he does not look healthy to me. I think you see a player trying to get his footing, and he just doesn't trust his physical ability right now because he's recovering from a very serious injury. And that's scary heading into week one, especially with how they kind of treated Ozzie this week as well. But maybe this Theo Benedict is a thing, and he can be a guy that can be relied upon if he has to start for whatever reason. But I don't think I feel any better about where the left tackle position is from last week to this week. If anything, I kind of feel worse.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one, Tom. Again, I'm definitely hitting the panic button on that. And that sucks for Braxton, right? Like you said, he's coming back from a brutal injury, but then, you're also fighting for his job. That how much pressure is on him, right? Because if he holds the starting spot down and he's a starter, he's going to get paid a lot of money, right? Or he's going to be set for the rest of his life, either if it's by the Bears or someone else. So, having all of those things on him, I kind of feel for the guy. But at the same time, it is the NFL, and that's just how it is. The thing is, I'm kind of worried because, again, we've seen Caleb get rid of the ball really quick in this preseason game. But we know he has that habit to where he's going to hold the ball long, right? And obviously, we know Ben Johnson's going to improve that and everything. But that can be a scary combination, right? When you have a left tackle struggling and you have a quarterback who at least is known for holding the ball really long, like that could be disastrous, right? That could, make or break a game there. So again, it's very worrisome. This team is going to have to get creative if we're rolling out Theo Bennington, or if we're even rolling out Ozzie Trapilo, who is a second-round rookie. You're going to have to get very creative to help mask that, right? You're going to have to give him help. You're going to have to get rid of the ball quicker to work around that, because it is a big deal, Tom, and it is worrisome.
Yeah, I mean, it is, especially the week 1 matchup, because there's so many protection things you have to worry about against the Vikings defense. And, Brian Flores can really exploit a weak link if you are signaling a lot of help there. So that could be scary. I think the encouraging, again, it's one play in a preseason game, but one of the encouraging reps was that Caleb Williams throw to DJ Moore, that anticipation throw. Braxton Jones totally gets smoked on the inside, and before the pressure's even in his face, that ball's out. So again, that's kind of going to have to be how Caleb's going to play with Braxton Jones, with the situation as we currently see it. I think he's going to have to be mindful of that. Ben Johnson wants to be mindful of that. Obviously, I don't think it's the end of the world, but it's something to note for sure. Another
you're going to have to be.
Sorry. Go on.
Tom. You're gonna have to be extremely consistent with that, right? Like you can't revert back to old habits. Like you can't really be Superman. Like you're really gonna have to be super consistent with that. And at the same time, like again, that's important to get from your quarterback, right? That's how the great ones elevate their offensive line play and kind of mask it. But given the situation, you're gonna have to be super, super consistent with it.
Most definitely. I think that would be a better way to, our Joseph says play the starters so they can see against Spags Blitz. I don't know how much Spags is going to show in the preseason game, but it's not a bad idea. I think the Chiefs, we'll talk about that. We're eventually going to preview that game. Probably we'll try to shoot to do that on Thursday, but it sounds like the Chiefs are going to play their starters. So I wonder if the Bears will follow suit. It's a great point to bring up. That would be great preparation for Brian Flores. Senator, another takeaway is they moved Ozzie back to the right side. And I think there were still some issues in pass protection. I think it was better, but, obviously there were some rookie mistakes in there. But as a run blocker, and just I think overall, he looks so much more comfortable on the right side, which was his natural side in college. And that's to be expected. I thought there was going to be some rookie development moving from the right side to the left side. We kind of saw that with Penei Sewell too early in his career. It definitely didn't come on natural. Not everyone can be all pro Tristan Wirfs and just switch whenever they want. Some guys take time. So I understand maybe getting a better version for the right now of Ozzie, but honestly, I think I would probably let him fail forward in the preseason and go through those rookie moments and those developmental moments. I would probably rather kept him on the left side, because if you're only feel comfortable about him on the right side, I don't really know what purpose he's going to show in year 1, if that makes sense. Because if Darnell Wright obviously if Darnell Wright goes down, then we're having a different discussion. But left tackle is such a glaring hole right now that I would still try to let Ozzie develop on that left side.
It also comes down to, I don't think we want to see Darnell Wright be forced to play left tackle, or Joe Tooney be forced to play left tackle. That's a domino effect. And the worry, when you see Trapilo at right tackle, right? So, I wasn't a fan of that, Tom. I will not be a fan if they start playing musical chairs with the offensive line and their positions. I'd rather just have a guy, find their home and be the best at that home, right? I know different coaches have different regime, but I thought Tevin Jenkins never got a fair shake because of that, right? You have a college right tackle, and then, you cut your starting left tackle and, you're the starting left tackle, right? Then you put him at right guard. Then you put him at left guard, right? And I just think, I think going from like left tackle to left guard or right tackle to right guard is okay. But when you're switching sides like that, like your feel for the game, your instincts for the game, I think is totally different.
For sure.
I think that's hard. That's hard to do, right? And like you said, in Trapilo's case, yes, right tackle in college. The plan for him is to be, your left tackle. Just keep him at left tackle, right? Let him grow there. Let him get the natural feel there. Let him, like you said, fail forward. Get the preseason snaps. Get the camp snaps. Get the practice snaps, right? And just continue to grow in that role. Because I think, once you switch from side to side, it's just a totally different feel, right? Again, you'll have some world-class talents like Tristan Wirfs who could do that and no problem. But this is a different case, right? This is a rookie who, again, isn't that, talent. Not saying he's not a great athlete, but he's not that, right? So why are you playing musical chairs with him at a, positions that are, very critical? Just let him find a home and grow.
Most definitely. That's exactly how I feel it. And I think you really hope that he can be a startable option at left tackle at some point this season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the only way that happens is if he's going to play left tackle, right? We know that he's probably more comfortable at right tackle, but again, there needs to be development there. So that was my big takeaway there. But I will say, center, he looked probably the best I can ever remember him as a run blocker. His run blocking reps were actually really impressive. He was climbing to the second level well, getting to those defenders, moving guys off the ball. I was really encouraged with what I saw from him. But again, pass protection is still worrisome. And then also you just want to see it at the left tackle side too. So that was my takeaways from the offensive line. I don't know if you had any other takeaways. I did think the running back situation was interesting. So we know Roschon is hurt right now. He's dealing with an injury. I don't know if that's preventative and they just don't, because they're so thin at the position, they don't want to force anything. But both DeAndre Swift and Monangai are held out of this one. And again, this could Swift being held out. Yeah, Brian Robinson. That's what I also wanted to talk about. Swift being held out makes sense, right? He's the starting running back. Why? You don't need to see anything from DeAndre Swift. Don't play him. Don't risk injury. Monangai is a little bit more interesting. So it was weird. The reporting beforehand was weird. It sounded like he was dealing with an injury, and that's why he was in street clothes. But then they asked Ryan Poles in the broadcast. I think they were like, is there anything wrong with him? Is that why he's not playing? And they're like, he's like, no, he's good. He'll be good. So I think, again, that could just be they want to keep their depth healthy and they don't want to get any thinner at this position that they already are. But do you think that's any indication at all, Snyder, that Monangai is growing into a bigger role? He is someone that this team is going to count on in the regular season?
I hope so. I really don't know, right? I get why Swift is out. I know Swift's going to have his role. But the thing is, do they expect Roschon to be healthy week one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are they, does Roschon have to fight for that RB2 job? I don't know, right? So Tom, I don't know the answer. I think with Monangai, I love what I've seen from him in that first preseason game, right? He ran strong as hell, right? And I think the Bears need that instinctive in between the tackles guy, that strong runner in the goal line. The Bears need that role, right? So I really don't know, Tom. I don't know if they're trying to prevent injury with him. I don't know how to feel about that at all. I don't know how serious the Roschon injury is. I don't know, Tom. I'm kind of drawing a blank on this whole situation beyond DeAndre Swift.
So why don't we talk about the speculation? And it's all fan-made speculation. I mean, I've heard nothing actually about this materializing anything, but the Commanders very publicly have made Brian Robinson their starting running back for the last, 2 years, available for a trade. And I think for some depth and just some certainty of having a guy, because the Bears are incredibly thin. I mean, Deion Hankins starts this game because they didn't want. To me, Monangai could have a bigger role than we think, or could for a 7th-round pick. But to me, also, it's we aren't in a position to risk any depth at this point. We're already so thin. Yeah. We got to play it safe. That's ultimately what that move kind of told me. But I don't know, Snyder. I mean, does Brian Robinson interest you at all? Like, it makes sense kind of with the Eric Bieniemy connection. But what do you think about Robinson as a player, and what do you think about his fit with the Bears?
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, I think you're looking at like a 6th or 7th like pick swap, right? I think you're getting
For
them
sure.
for almost close to nothing, right? I mean, I'm not against it, right? At that price, I'm not against it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's that great of a football player.
Yeah, I don't
Obviously
either.
not great, because if you're talking about, the Commanders kind of trading him given their situation, right? I think that also says a lot. But like, as far as like, would I be opposed to getting for like a 7th round pick swap or just a 7th round pick? No, right? I think if you do that, it's because you're kind of maybe out on Roshan Johnson, or
Yes.
you're concerned about his injury kind of lingering and him missing some time. And then maybe it's just like, him and Mangi are just kind of like depth pieces behind Montez Swift, that kind of short yardage guy. You'd almost rather want to see what you have with Manungai there, right? But again, if you just want to have a deeper room, for that reason, I guess I'm not opposed to it at all. Because I think, again, he's on a rookie deal, making almost nothing. You get him for almost nothing. But Tom, what I heard from it, I thought we did a podcast with some Commanders guys, and I still follow them, and I think I just like read an article or some tweets where like the enemy was kind of out on Brian Robinson. Like he wasn't like a fan of him, like the way he was able to carry the load like later into the season, into the playoffs, and became frustrated with him. Again, I didn't look too much into that, but I think that's something to consider. Obviously I'm going to do a little bit more digging with that. But if that's the case, I don't see them reuniting. But again, don't know.
Snyder, that's a very interesting point, because it sounds like that's where the Commanders coaching staff is now, that they thought that he was leaving a lot of yards on the field given the lack of explosiveness
Exactly.
and maybe just the way he ran the ball. And when it comes back to Snyder, is like, I think the biggest element or reliable aspect of the position that this current group is missing is someone in pass protection. I mean, we hope Roshan can be that kind of stabilizing force, but he's hurt. And we also just haven't seen much of Roshan at all in regular season football. We've never seen him play a whole lot of snaps. So Manungai was drafted, I think, in a lot of ways to be that, right, as a value add to provide some pass protection. But you don't really know if he's going to be that, because he's a 7th round rookie. And then is Travis Homer really going to crack your rotation just to pass protect? I don't know, right? Like, maybe you don't want to concede any of that. So if I were to look into Brian Robinson or adding him at all, I'd really have to do some investigating on how is he as a pass protector. I have no knowledge of that because the Commanders never used him that way. If you remember, he started off his career splitting carries with Antonio Gibson. That was solely Antonio Gibson's role. And then last year, Eckler comes into the picture, and Robinson was never put in those situations. So that would be, I think, a thing he's lacking. And then if you're just looking at him as a 1st and 2nd down rusher, is he that much better than what Manungai or Roshan probably give you? Probably not, right? I think if you're adding him, it would be more for depth reasons.
Yeah, I am really indifferent about it, Tom. Not, either way, I'm cool with it, right? I think he could contribute maybe, as that in between the tackles runner. But yeah, I'm indifferent either way. All
right. I think that's all really there is to recap about this game, Snyder, because the starters on defense got pulled so early. There's not a whole lot to talk about. So unless there's anything you want to add, I think we can get out of there on that note. Our guy Joseph said this is extremely random, but Caleb's arm talent is insane. Is it better than Jordan Love's? I think so. At least I think he has a stronger arm than Jordan Love, and I think he's a more creative thrower. But he did, again, has to be more accurate for me to really confidently say that. But I do think the upside and talent is more than Jordan Love.
Yeah, the velocity on the ball.
Yes,
I think is a lot higher than Jordan Love's, right? Just talking strictly arm talent, I think Caleb can zip it in a lot better than Jordan Love. Jordan Love has a very talented arm, don't get me wrong, but I really think that Caleb's this velocity is some of the best we've ever seen. I think comparable to like Stafford type of velocity there.
Yeah, I agree, Steiner. I think he has one of the strongest arms in terms of just purely ripping and ripping. Like he can really that throw to Kmet was insane. It was just it kind of displayed that arm strength on full showing. So our guy Kanger 80 says Bajan trade value right now. I mean, I would probably keep him as your backup, but I mean, I don't know. Like unless I'm getting something crazy. Like if I got like a 3rd round pick, which I think is like starting value level trade, then yeah, I'd do it. But other than that, I'd probably keep him as your backup because he is playing so well in this system. And I think it is a great fit for him. And backup quarterbacks are really, really important. And you know, I think he's got a year left on his deal too. So I don't think you're really in any rush to trade him right now. And a team would have to really be desperate about their current situation to think, no offense to Tyson Bagent, he's a great backup, but I think most teams can acknowledge that he's a great backup. And I don't know if any team is like going out of their way to build a team around him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think this is a conversation you probably should have had prior to free agency, prior to the draft. Like if you were going to trade him, that's the time you do it, right? Now that he has all this time with Ben Johnson, with the offense, you know, you can't really replay. I get Tom, who's our backup again? Beyond that, I forget his name.
Chase Keenum.
Is it Chase Keenum? I don't know why I was going to say Chase Daniels, but yeah, like I don't think he is. I don't like him as a backup, right? Like I would feel better from just the talent level, and then mobility with Bagent. So again, when you combine that, where he's got the playbook, he's got the lingo. You don't want to break that, right? Like I just think you're kind of handcuffing yourself if you just kind of trade him now, even if it's for like a 4th or 5th, to get something. And I understand that, but I think you would be almost shooting yourself in the foot and kind of playing with fire if you're to do it at this point.
For sure, Steiner. And I think it go like is a vice versa point you just made that like teams are already rolling with the quarterbacks that they have. Like it'd be really hard to like have any immediate plans for Bagent right now because we're so far into the offseason. So yeah, I just don't really see that. I will be interested though when Bagent becomes available, like how teams will view him. Maybe they do view him more, like he could be more. It seems like, you know, the NFL media is a lot higher on him. And I mean, he's been great. Like don't get me wrong. All right, I think that's going to be it for us today. We will be back to preview that Chiefs game. But until we meet again, y'all, keep it real. Bear down.
Bear down.